Hey everybody, it's Reggie with Lawyer Interviews, and today we are talking with Diane, who is a family law attorney who practices in South New Jersey as well as Pennsylvania. Hi Diane, how are you?
I'm very good. Thank you. How are
Good.
you?
I'm very good. It's Friday, so I'm great.
Yes.
Well, thank you for joining us today. I'm really excited to talk to you because you're actually one of our more seasoned attorneys that we've had on this, show. And I would love to talk to you a little bit more about what your experience has been like from the time you started to now, because you've been practicing for over a decade. And I'd love to know how law practice has been for you in that more than a decade.
Sure. I came out of law school at probably the worst possible time. I was in law school during the recession of 2008. And when I graduated, this was right around the time that all of the big firms were going through major upheaval. We were seeing a decline in legal jobs. We were, seeing the lowest number that we had at the time for people entering law school. So I came out and really didn't follow the traditional path.
Mhm.
I started my own firm very quickly after school. I did a brief clerkship for a juvenile dependency judge.
Mhm.
And then I did 1 year at the Philadelphia Public Defender's Office in their child advocacy unit. And that's where I did representation specifically of children in the dependency world where, they've been removed from parents because of abuse and neglect and they need their own separate counsel. And
Mhm.
then right after that, I hung my shingle and haven't looked back since then. So it's been a wild ride, but I was, managing cases in my own firm. And I think, friends of mine and colleagues from law school were still, carrying someone's coffee. So it was very,
Right.
it was very much an on-the-job training, trial by fire, but it's been fantastic.
Absolutely. And you have, I mean, obviously it's been a success. You have three different offices, correct?
Yes, our main office is in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And then we also have an office just across the bridge in Center City, Philadelphia. And then we do have a third office in Princeton, New Jersey. So the three offices are interconnected and close by, and it allows us to service a large range of clients. And because Southern New Jersey is so close to Philadelphia, we get a lot of overlap and people move back
Mhm.
and forth. And with family court, kids move around a little bit, schools are different. That's always an issue. So it was nice to have offices in both places.
That's so nice. And like you said, I mean, like you said, being able to service clients when they're obviously with custody, I'm sure that can get
Yeah,
interesting crossing state lines, even if it's close. So it's nice that you can
exactly.
have offices in both places.
It is. It really is. And both states are very different and they handle family court very differently. But it's really nice to be able to, if someone does switch over from one state to the other, we can give them advice in both places.
That's nice. And do you have to keep your licensure up in both states then?
I do. I'm licensed in both places. So yeah,
I have to
CLE is
do
one license.
licensing too, and it's do all the more CLEs, more
Yeah.
fees, all the fun stuff.
Yes, I try to do the CLEs that give me the opportunity for reciprocal credit, but
Yeah,
sometimes it's not possible. But yes, I
exactly.
agree.
Exactly. Well, I would love to know a little bit too about your experience in the adoption field. Before we got online, we were talking about how sometimes family law can seem so miserable, but adoption is an area where it's a very sad, but then again, happy circumstance because kids getting families. I'd love to know about your involvement in the Adoption Council, what you do, and how that impacts your practice.
Sure. Yeah. Family law is what everybody traditionally thinks of: divorce, custody, support. And yes, it's very sad. It's the upheaval and completely rearrangement of someone's family life. It's the dissolution of, the breakdown of, the breakup of your family. But on the other hand, adoption is the building of a family. So it's been really, really nice to carve that out as a niche within my niche of family law. So probably about a third of my practice is adoption, and I specifically focus on adoptive parents. So that can be a couple who had struggled with infertility and is now looking to domestically adopt through an agency. That can be a same-sex couple who didn't want to pursue the surrogacy route or use their own biological material and they're looking to adopt. But I also do a lot of kinship adoption, which to us in Pennsylvania and New Jersey can be any third party related to the child, whether it's a step parent through marriage or whether it's through a grandmother, aunt, uncle, some other third party who's adopting. And it's fantastic. It's the happy, touchy feely stuff for
I
sure.
love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And you're also serving on nonprofit boards as well, focused on adoption. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So helpusadopt.org is a nonprofit organization that 4 times a year grants financial support to families looking to build their family through the process of adoption.
Wow.
People don't realize how expensive adoption can be. And that's really not just the attorney's fees, but there's court fees, there's agency fees, there's, the costs and expenses for birth mothers. So the average American really can't afford that, such a large cost.
Right.
And Help Us Adopt has given out large grants. I think, it's wonderful how much they can give to families. And I was speaking with their founder, Becky Fawcett, one day, and she was talking about or looking to get a way for interdisciplinary professionals together. And what she meant by that was attorneys, social workers, maybe agencies, and all of us who work in that field together. So I suggested, why don't we get a council together? And it's really grown over the last 4 years into a place where we can all use each other as resources, cross refer. We're all over the country, so everyone can say, hey, I need a referral for this place or that, but also we can establish a mutual understanding with each other for what an attorney deals with versus what a social worker deals with. And it's been really cool to connect with people across the country, and also with the same focused mission of supporting such a great cause like that nonprofit organization.
That's so cool. And how neat that it ties in also with exactly what you do. I think it's cool to have kind of a boutique of professionals in that area too, because like you said, adoption is not just the lawyers in the court. You've got social workers, you've got, other kinds of resources that are needed and available. So how cool to have a foundation that supports communities like that. I love that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. We really are a niche, and that's why I'm the chair of the Philadelphia Bar Association Family Law Section Adoption Subcommittee. And there's 4 of us that really manage that committee. But when we hosted a CLE last year, just really on the nuts and bolts, the 101s, it was amazing, the turnout. And the feedback we got was that people were clamoring for more of that information, because it is such a niche that no one, really knew about it as much as we thought that they did. So it was great to see that feedback.
Absolutely. Well, I'm kind of curious too myself. I mean, and a typical adoption, I mean, how expensive is it for, families? I'm sure it can range, but it sounds like it's probably quite pricey.
Sure. I mean, I would say the average, at least in my area, is anywhere between $40,000 and $60,000, but that could just be for the agency. So it depends on, how many times you want to pursue adoption, where you end up adopting from across the country. Is it local, or do you need to, travel a little bit of a farther distance for that? And then also, is your adoption successful the first time? Are you matched right away? Are you waiting a little bit longer? Are you hiring an agency and an attorney and a consultant? There's a lot of hidden costs, especially New Jersey and Pennsylvania have some differing laws about what you can compensate a birth mother for, but you could be covering her rent or her medical bills and things like that too. So it's certainly something to think about, because it can be more than the average annual salary, which is astronomically high.
Oh, absolutely. And what a great thing to have an org that will give grants that for families who just, I mean, I don't know many families who could afford that right out of the pocket, right? So that's really, really cool that there are support systems out there for people financially. I love that.
Yeah,
Diane, I'd love to hear a little bit also about your family law practice. And, we discussed a little bit, that divorce is sometimes like the hard part of someone's life, custody, splitting up financials. And so you're probably dealing with people when they're probably at their lowest or feel like they're at their lowest. How do you help clients through that as an advocate and guide?
It's a great question. I think that family law of all the areas of law is much more people focused. You're not just, doing a real estate transaction or, pushing around money or paperwork. So we recognize that from the jump, that people are coming to us in some of their worst emotional states. One of the things that we like to do, and I say we, I mean my partners and I, is we consider ourselves empathetic and human for sure, but we're interdisciplinary. So if someone comes to us and we notice that they're struggling, we're going to recommend, our team of trusted therapists that we've worked with or had clients work with. If somebody has a specific issue that they need a financial planner to talk to about, or a CPA, same thing. We work with professionals that sort of overlap with our arena, like real estate agents, therapists, mediators, accountants, any of those professionals, but we work with ones that know and recognize that divorce adds an extra layer.
Right.
Also, we have to be a little extra sensitive with clients. Maybe we're doing a little more hand-holding. Maybe counselor at law, actually becomes just that, counseling.
Right.
But at the same time, you really do have to set a boundary, because people will text and call you at all hours of the night if you will let them. And at the end of the day, you're still a professional. You're still, working in a more dominated 9-to-5 world. But, we understand and recognize that clients want a little extra handholding, and we try to provide that.
Right. Well, and I think that's so interesting when you talk about setting boundaries with clients, because I can imagine that probably family law more than any other has all hours of the day kind of issues pop up, probably more so than business that's, more 9-to-5. So how did you set boundaries, or how have you maintained those with clients?
It's a great question. I think when I first started, I was very conscious of being super available, and that I really thought that clients needed me to be that available. But when I realized very quickly that I should not give out my cell phone, and when people were calling me at 10 o'clock at night, 3 in the morning, all hours of the day, I was like, that's it. So I have a hard and fast rule: no cell phone. No one gets my personal cell phone number. It's just strictly email. So I don't really text with clients anymore, and I don't let them interact with me, at night. That has somewhat gone out the window since COVID, but understandable.
Yeah, we're all kind of just available now with COVID. We're
yes,
the click of a button.
Yeah, exactly. But what I will do is very quickly and early thereon, I respond to emails on my timeline. I'm very quick to respond, but I'm also not instantaneous. If I'm maybe checking my email at 9 o'clock at night, I will save that email in draft and send it the next day. I'm letting the client know that I'm not perpetually available to them at all times. And you're almost training them a little bit. And I think my clients have gotten the understanding from me that they know I'm available. They know I'm communicative, but not at the expense of my mental health, of my family life, of, responding to them, every single second of every day. So it really has just been no cell phone. And then the other thing that I thought was super helpful was I actually take my email off of my cell phone at 6 p.m. So I still have it, obviously, to check on the computer, but I won't, inadvertently stumble upon it at night after 6 p.m. And then, sometimes I check on the computer a little later, but I think that that's really helped me sort of keep that boundary up and not respond, right away. Because if you let them know you're up at 10 o'clock at night looking at your email, responding, then they'll keep emailing you.
There's the expectation. I think that's such good advice, especially for new lawyers. I did the opposite of what you did. And, I started getting emails at all hours, and now the expectation is set. And now it's like, it's so hard to set a boundary after you've already So such good advice. Everyone listen to Diana.
Well, and here's the other thing that I think family court and family law has is a lot of the drama is centered around holiday time. So I'm not trying to text back with a client on Thanksgiving. I'm not trying to manage something on Christmas Eve. Like, I wanted to be able to really not have to deal with that. And so for us, and another firm that I'm friendly with does this too, they start talking about holidays, like the Christmas time, in October with clients, so that there's no last minute, let's talk about it. Yep, exactly. No, let's talk about it on Christmas Eve. Nope. If you had an issue where you need to work something out, let's talk about it, way far in advance. So
no ambush tactics, no surprises, so that you all can enjoy your holiday too.
Exactly.
That's good advice as well, because I've definitely had a few. I mean, I don't practice family law, but even in business, I've definitely had the occasional upheaval of my Thanksgiving meal, and it's like, oh, an emergency. Take care of it.
And when your client thinks it's an emergency, they want your attention immediately. So
exactly. And a client's definition of emergency and the lawyer's definition of emergency are very different. I'm sure it's more so in family law, dealing with holidays and custody and time. How do you tell clients sometimes that I'm sure it happens. How do you tell sometimes clients when they're being unreasonable? How do you go about that?
I feel like I'm doing that more often than not, but I'm a very candid attorney. So when a client meets with me initially, I'm certainly not puffing up unrealistic expectations. So I'm very direct and I'll say, I understand why you may feel that way, or I understand why you may want that. However, the law and the court just really don't look at it that way. I also know that if a client, and this happens, is taking out some of their anger and aggression or upset about the divorce on me, I just simply say, please don't speak to my staff that way, or I'm not interested in you speaking to me that way. I'm going to need an apology about that. Or, I'm very direct. And I think that people realize sometimes on their own too, that they've pushed you a little too far.
Right.
But then sometimes, maybe that client isn't a good fit for you, or they find that you're not a good fit for them and they move on. But I've just taken the approach of being upfront and honest at the beginning. And then there's no, surprises as to like expectation setting later on.
Very cool. I think that's a great way to go ahead and style your behaviors with clients, because I'm sure that you guys get in your firm just some interesting behaviors. I mean, again, you're dealing with people's kids, money, houses, division of things. I'm sure that people are at their highest stress.
And
And
also, there's times when there's mental health components too. So,
right.
if we recognize that, or I recognize that, I try to get them the support they need as far as recommending a therapist or a life coach or something like that. But I think that also understanding when I hear from them, maybe that they're having somewhat of a mental health, episode, as opposed to a more rational legal conversation, I also can manage it, accordingly that way. But it's important to be honest. I think there's a lot of lawyers out there who a client will come in and they'll say, oh, I want this pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, or I want the most extreme. And then the lawyer will just take their money and say, sure, I'll get it for you. But it just doesn't work that way. And I think I like to blame the court, or I'll say in my experience or whatever it is, but I think expectation setting up front is key.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And do your clients, are they receptive to being so candid and having that candor with them of honesty, or has it created any issues, or do you think it's actually more helpful?
That's a great question. I think most people, I'd say 99% of people want that, because they're coming to you in a time of need, and they're looking to trust you. You're the professional. Sometimes I'm the first person that they've talked to about the divorce. They haven't talked to friends or family. They haven't, spoken to any other professionals. So they really do want guidance, and they are overwhelmed. They have no idea what to expect. So a lot of people do want that. Some don't love it. And then again, then maybe we're not meant to be a fit. So right. I'm certainly not, browbeating them with my honesty. I'm mixing it in with compassion and empathy for sure. But I think the people who don't want to hear it are just the ones that aren't ready to be divorced, or aren't ready to really work with an attorney in a firm like mine. So then again, they move on. But most clients want that assistance, want that receptiveness, they're receptive to it, and they want that advice.
Right. I mean, and you're not doing them any justice by, blowing smoke, right? You're doing, a more efficient job, and probably saving them time and money and stress and angst by telling them the truth, even if it's not what they want to hear.
Because, if I was to say, sure, I'll do whatever you want, and then we get to court and the judge says absolutely not, then, what good does that do for them? And then they're mad at me, they're mad at themselves, they've spent and wasted money. I think that's the biggest rookie mistake an attorney can make, is to not really stand their ground on the advice that they're giving.
Right. Absolutely. Well, Diane, with such a high, I guess, kind of sometimes stress emotionally, you're carrying a lot of emotions probably of your different clients. How do you keep that separate from your personal life and not let it affect your personal life, or, your home life? How do you keep the separation? We talked about the email and everything, but what about the emotional toll?
That's a really great question, because it is hard. I mean, family law is taxing. I think that what's been important for me is just unwinding between the end of my workday and before I go home to greet my husband and my daughter. And that can be any number of things. It can be music, or a podcast, a quick yoga class, or something like that. But I think that what it's really done for me is to help me keep two sort of buckets, the work life, emotional stuff, and then the home life. And then it also makes me appreciate what I have at home. A lot of people joke, to my husband, you're married to a divorce attorney. But it shows me the mistakes people make, so that I don't make them in my own, my own life.
Interesting. Yeah.
There are definitely times when I just come home and I'm like depleted and upset and, of course I'm only human, but I think I've gotten more used to compartmentalizing them, recognizing that a lot of the emotion that's coming at me is not directed specifically at me. I'm just the person in the line of fire. And, I drink a lot of wine. So that works too.
Always a good answer to
Yes.
handling the stress of the job.
Yes, exactly.
All right, what's your wine of choice?
So I'm a red wine girl. I love a Cab Sav. So yeah,
Very
any
good.
Cab Sav, I'm on board.
I love it. And Diane, I'd also love to know for maybe the people out there graduating or about to take, or I guess they would have just taken the bar in February. How did you know family law was right for you? When did you figure that out?
That's a good question. When I was in law school, I worked at a firm that had a multitude of different practice areas, and I tried my hand at kind of everything to see what I liked. And one of them was family law, and I really enjoyed it. And when I was mentioning that I came out of school at sort of a terrible time in the legal field, I really had to be selective rather. And I wanted to do something that really meant something. I like the people interactions. I'm a reality TV junkie, and for better or worse, family law is the reality TV of real life. So I knew I wanted something interesting, and I didn't want contracts or any of that kind of stuff. So when I decided I really was going to pursue it, I knew it was right for me because it had to deal with people, and it had to deal with helping people, but also like really dynamic people's stories and people's lives. So that was really what drew me to family law.
That's really neat. And do you have any interesting or cool stories that you don't mind sharing, or one that stands out to you over your years of practice that really impacted you?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the clients that have stuck with me have been the ones that I've really gotten to know their children as they've grown. Some of the more dramatic and funny stories also. One that always sticks with me was a divorce. It was a very long-term marriage. My client was husband, and husband unfortunately was having an affair. And when his wife found out, she made him his favorite meal, cooked him everything, slipped a little something in his soup. And then when he passed out, she started hitting him with a baseball bat, and he all of that. So that's, I mean, and he was, coming to me saying, look, I know I was in the wrong. There's always stories like that that are just, you can't make them up. You can't make up the facts of what happened, but they all stick with me. But the ones with the kids where I've worked with them for years and I see them grow, I often think about it. And I've had clients send me like Christmas cards or family pictures, around the holidays. And it's just, it's nice to see that they've moved on or how things have changed. But that's what sticks with me for sure.
That's cool. That's really neat. And it's neat that you're able to have a relationship with clients where they are sending you like progress of their kids growing, their family Christmas cards, letting you know how they're doing because you had an impact on their lives. That's other areas of law are not, I don't get Christmas cards from my unless they're a business,
Yeah, sure.
Cool. And I'd also love, one last piece of advice for those choosing to practice in family law. What would you say to yourself now, going back to you just having graduated? What's a piece of advice you'd give to yourself?
That's so interesting because I think about this a lot. I've trained a lot of associate attorneys. I think just don't take it personally. At the beginning, it's very easy as a young attorney to take every little thing personally. Everything a judge says to you, everything a client says to you, everything, you go over and over in your head cases as you've
opposing counsel.
Opposing counsel. Yep. I think, just don't take it personally. And I think I would also suggest trusting my gut a little bit more. I've always been very decision minded and driven, but not questioning my gut and making decisions based on my gut and how I was running my business and who I was aligning myself with. I think I would definitely tell myself to stick with what my gut was telling me.
I love that. That's great advice because I think a lot of attorneys, we get out and law school teaches you the law, but maybe not how to practice. Yeah. And so you second guess yourself and you finally feel comfortable after, a number of years, but you know the answer. Don't question yourself. You're the professional in the room too.
Yeah.
And I think women especially go through that, at least in my experience. So stop questioning yourself.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, imposter syndrome is real for sure. And especially like being a woman in a boys club and, having to get past some of that stigma. But yeah, you are the professional in the room. You're right about that. I like that.
Okay, so you say you're reality TV junkie. Okay, let's real fast. We'll end with a couple quick. Okay, like give me your top 3 reality TV shows.
Sure. I'm essentially anything on Bravo is
what
I'm interested in. Yes. So right now I'm loving that new Real Housewives of New Jersey is back. Salt Lake just wrapped up this weekend. I love the Housewives for like you can't make that kind of stuff up, and the drama is real. There's actually, I'm such a law nerd. There's a podcast called the Bravo Docket. That actually they're 2 attorneys who love Bravo, and they like break down all of the Bravo legal stuff, and it's phenomenal. So
I'm with you. I was hoping you were going to say Bravo, because I mean, I could probably be on like one of those like reality TV trivia nights. If it's Housewives related, I'm going to ace it. So you're going to be on my team when we do.
100%. I love that kind of stuff. And I joke to my husband, I would love to be on a reality show. And he's like, I'm not interested. I don't want to live a public life. I don't want to be a part of it. So
absolutely. Well, one of my friends is Lisa Barlow from Salt Lake, and
no way.
Oh yeah. So we've seen her like, out and about, and no privacy, none. I'm just like, no, thanks.
I loved her this season. She was so great. First season, I wasn't sure. Now I'm like, okay, I'm on Lisa Barlow's team. Yeah,
for sure. That's awesome. Well, Diane, thank you. It's been so fun talking to you, and it's been really great getting some insight on family law specifically, and your practice and area. And I'd love for you to give our viewers your social media accounts so that they can follow you, and we'll put up the text so that they can view it as well.
Absolutely. So our firm's website is familylawmks.com. We are on Facebook if you search our firm name, Martine, Catscallen, and Schimmel. And then we're also on Instagram, which is probably more where we're most active, at MKSS Family Law. And then my personal handle is dschimmy, DSCHIMMY. I basically only post about family law, wine, and my almost 3-year-old. So it's up to them. But our firm social media, we share memes, but we also do share relevant stories. And it's a great way to find out some of the new cutting edge stuff. We post about celebrity divorces and all that kind of stuff too. So.
Oh, I love it. Well, I'll definitely go follow, because I love celebrity, gossip. Right. Well, Diane, thank you for joining us at Lawyer Interviews, and you have a great day. And everyone, thanks for watching. It's Reggie. We'll see you next time.